Hi, my name is Rabbi Dunner. Welcome to my Erev Shabbos Dvar Torah. This week for Parshat Terumah. The pasuk at the beginning of Parshat Terumah says as follows: "V'osu li mikdash v'shochanti b'soicha." God tells Moshe Rabbeinu that the Jewish people should make a sanctuary for him, and he will dwell among them. Rashi says on that pasuk, "V'osu lishmi beis kedusha." Make it for my sake a house of holiness. Now, usually, Rashi makes so much sense. He steps in when something doesn't sound right, or if it requires a deeper or more detailed explanation. But in this case, what is Rashi on about? What is so puzzling about the pasuk that needed an explanation? And why does he change the word mikdash to call it a Beit Kedusha? And if I'm already on the topic, why do we refer to the Beit HaMikdash, which was the temple in Jerusalem, in that way? Just call it Mikdash, as it's referred to here in Terumah, the very first time a temple is ever mentioned. Now, I once heard a cute idea. You'll love it. The numerical value of Mikdash is 444. Now, if you minus the numerical value of Bayit, which is 412, from Mikdash, you're left with 32, which is the numerical value of the word Lev, heart, in Hebrew. Without the critical features that give a building a heart, it would just be an architectural phenomenon. Maybe an impressive building, but that's it. But if it has a beating heart that will make it a live building, or, to be more precise, a building that has life, that's important. As I said, it's cute, but normally I don't give much attention to these type of charming gematria number games. But this one actually got me thinking, got my attention, and it reminded me of a story I once heard from a friend of mine. He and his wife had just bought a new home, and moving day had arrived. All of us have moved at some point in our lives. Such a stressful experience. It's never just a day, is it? It's days and days of packing up your stuff, and on the moving day itself, there are boxes and boxes and crates and bags and suitcases. It's a whirlwind that ends up into a pandemonium and then into a hurricane. My friend told me that when he moved, it was just him and his wife. The kids were still very small, and they couldn't help him. I think they had been married for about 5 years at the time, and they had finally bought their first home, their first house, with a small down payment and a massive mortgage. Now, it was the end of a long and back-breaking day, and my friend and his wife sat down, exhausted, surrounded by boxes and crates and suitcases and bags. They rummaged around and they found their kettle and a packet of cookies. They made themselves a nice cup of tea and sat down on the floor, backs to the wall, sipping their tea, looking around. Finally, they were living in their own house. Their dream of owning their own home had come true. But life is never quite that simple, is it? My friend's wife looked around and shook her head. "I don't like it," she said. "What are you talking about?" She grimaced. "I'm sorry, but I don't like the house." "What do you mean? We chose it together. We signed the mortgage." "Yes, I know," she said, "but that was before I moved in. Now I'm here. I don't like it." Have you ever had a moment like that? I bet you have. We all have. My friend was quiet. He didn't know what to say. And suddenly he remembered a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. It came to him in a flash of inspiration, and he says to his wife, "Listen, honey, of course the house isn't making you happy. Do you know why? Because no house can ever make anybody happy. And do you know why that is? Because the Mishnah says, Rabbi Yossi Omer lo mekoimo shel Adam mechabdoi, ela Adam mechabed es mekoimo." It is not a place that brings honor to the man, but rather the man who brings honor to the place. Of course you don't like the house, because you don't live here. That's what's missing. You and me and our children and our Shabbos table and the guests who will eat here and stay here, and the up moments and the down moments. Every day that we are here, and you insert yourself and your personality and your dedication into this house, the more you will like it. Right now it's just a bunch of rooms with loads of boxes and crates. In 10 or 20 years' time, you'll love this house. His wife looked at him with that look that wives give you in those particular situations. She hadn't expected a Mussar drosha, but then she smiled and nodded and they began unpacking. They still live in that same house 20 years later, and I'm glad to tell you she loves it. When the Kotzker Rebbe was a very young boy, his Rebbe asked him, "Where can God be found?" The future Rebbe of Kotzk answered, "God is everywhere." The Rebbe shook his head. The Kotzker Rebbe insisted that God is truly everywhere. He said, "Come on, Rebbe, what are you talking about?" But his Rebbe corrected him. "Do you know where God can be found? Wherever he is allowed to enter." Rashi is making this exact same point. The Mishkan could have just been a mikdash, a space that's set aside for God, but God isn't there. He's everywhere. The point of the mikdash was for it to be a Beit Kedusha, a Beit HaMikdash, a home for Hashem, because we created it for him, created that bayit, that home, by bringing God into it. It's not just an empty edifice, but a space in which God's personality can be found in every nook and every cranny. And that message carries over into our shuls and into our homes. Will our shul just be a mikdash, or will it be a Beit Mikdash? Will our home be full of God, or is God some kind of abstract? Everywhere, but nowhere. Where is God? He's everywhere he is allowed to enter. Our job is to let him in and make him feel at home. Give our mikdash a lave, a heart. That is our duty. That is our challenge. And ultimately, that will be our joy. Wishing you Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.